Hi, welcome. I would today like to talk about some CSS grid and responsive design. So let's get started. Basically, I had done a video on CSS grid a while ago. You can take a look at that one and refresh your memory. But so let's just get started here. So essentially, I'm going to start from where I left off on that video, and I created this CSS grid. The only other thing I've done is added two images so I can demonstrate to you how to use it for responsive design. So that's what we have for a CSS grid, and I'm going to use Mozilla Firefox because it has good support for CSS grids. And once you inspect an element, you can actually see different parts of the grid. So, for example, if I say display area names, it will show the areas of the grid where the names are. So, for example, here let me see overlay div container. So here you can see that this one was the middle and this one was the right, left, all, and so on. And if you want to take a quick look at how the areas we had, so we had some areas being specified as all and left, middle, right, and for a particular element we could place it in some grid area. So one problem I would want to demonstrate with this kind of design is that since we only had three columns, as you are trying to shrink it, you can see the columns are becoming simple, smaller and smaller. And ideally, what we would like to do is something similar to responsive design, that we will show fewer columns when the viewport width becomes smaller. So that's one thing I wanted to kind of show you. And the advantage with this approach is that you don't really need to use CSS media queries to set breakpoints as well. So it is pretty flexible and you can give it a try if you haven't already. So for this demonstration, I don't really want to use this grid template area. So I'm going to get rid of this grid template areas here. And I will show you what it looks like if we didn't have any grid template areas. So here got rid of all the areas. So we basically have six things and three columns. So if you take a look at it, it basically looks almost the same, except we don't see any area names. So I'm going to get rid of the area names. So this is what it is, and we want to make it flexible. So the easiest way to do this is pretty straightforward. What you can do is when you specify the grid template columns, instead of just saying you need three columns, you want to change it to a property called Autofit. So it will automatically fit the number of columns that can fit in the viewport width. And here what you can do is just don't say one fractional units, but you can use the minimax CSS functions, and you can maybe say 480 pixel or one fractional unit. So if the minimum would be there be 480 pixel or one fractional units, and you can just do the repeat auto fit. If you just do that right here, what you will observe is that now we basically have 480 pixels, so we are seeing basically two columns. And as I shrink them, you will see uh, in the end you're starting to see one column here. So that is actually already working the way we expect in terms of adjusting to the viewport height. So what other thing you can do here is to maybe justify the image in the center. So to do that is pretty straightforward. We can add certain properties. Instead of align items being start, we can change it to center. And also you can change the justify items property, or add a justify items property to center. And let's see what that does. So if you do that, you can see the images are now being centered here as opposed to being on the left and right. And as we decrease, you can see it is going to adjust pretty much. And it's actually really a very good way to do a flexible grid without having to use any media queries. I mean, implicitly you do have a way of suggesting how much this width should be, but this is, I find it to be a lot easier than writing media queries. So I would recommend that you try this. Another property you can try, auto fit, And the other property is called autofill. It will fill up all of the available space for that. In practice, I have not seen that much difference between for the use cases. I've observed that it makes such a big difference, but you can also play around with that property. If you're noticing, these are the grid row numbers, and at the top you have the column numbers. And basically in Mozilla, when you inspect, it can show you. So if you wanted to take a look at the particular grid, it's pretty easy. You can see here is the grid, here is the grid, and it's a very a nice interface. So that's why I'm using Mozilla Firefox for these demonstrations. So thank you for watching this short screencast, and I'll just add it into this one CSS grid flexible design. And you have a great day.